Margaret had been working at Sunset Manor nursing home for 15 years. That day, when she saw extra vitamin powder being sprinkled on Mrs. Henderson's plate, she froze. Was this a special nutrition program for this wealthy elderly woman? Or something else? Margaret's 25 years of toxicology experience set off alarms. This vitamin was one of the poisonous compounds she knew. Life's darkest secrets are hidden in the safest looking places. In this video, you'll watch how a nursing home cook discovered a systematic poisoning operation and used her former toxicology expert identity to save elderly residents. Margaret's story is about the power of experience and the hidden heroes who protect the vulnerable. Margaret Chen's story begins in 1954 in San Francisco's Chinatown neighborhood. Her father owned the Golden Dragon restaurant. Her mother was a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. From childhood, Margaret was exposed to both cooking and the medical field. Her family had an approach that blended traditional Chinese medicine with modern Western medicine. Little Margaret often listened to her mother's medical story. In the 1960s, nursing was a challenging profession, especially for Asian women. When her mother described patients' mysterious symptoms, Margaret always asked questions. How do you know what's wrong? What makes people sick? In high school, Margaret excelled in chemistry and biology. Science teachers noticed her analytical mind. In 1972, she won a scholarship to UC Berkeley and chose chemistry as her major. At that time, very few Asian women were making careers in STEM field. In college, Margaret serendipitously took a toxicology course. Professor Dr. Williams was a renowned expert who consulted with the FBI. Studying real poisoning cases fascinated Margaret. Poison tells a story, Dr. Williams said. Every substance leaves a signature. Every death has truth. In 1975, she graduated from UC Berkeley with a chemistry degree, then pursued a master's in toxicology. Her thesis was on plant-based toxins, inspired by her Chinese traditional medicine background. At that time, forensic toxicology was a newly developing field and a challenging career choice for women. During graduate school, Margaret worked part-time in a crime lab. Her first major exposure to a real poisoning case was in 1976, a wealthy businessman's suspicious death with his wife as a suspect. Margaret's analysis detected exotic mushroom poison. The case led to a conviction and set Margaret's career direction. In 1978, she began working as a toxicologist at the California State Crime Lab. At 26, she was a young Asian woman in a predominantly white male field. She faced initial challenges, but her expertise quickly spoke for itself. Her first major independent case came in 1980. There was a mysterious death cluster in the Bay Area. 5 elderly victims, different neighborhoods, no obvious connections. Police thought they were natural deaths, but Margaret noticed a pattern. All victims had died after recent hospital discharges. Margaret analyzed tissue samples and detected a slow-acting poison. Further investigation revealed a hospital nurse was a serial killer targeting elderly patients. Margaret's work prevented 8 additional murders. Throughout the 1980s, Margaret worked on California's most challenging cases: suicide versus homicide determinations, accidental overdoses, environmental poisoning, product tampering cases. Her expertise was particularly in household chemicals, plant-based toxins, and slow-acting poisons. In 1985, Margaret married David Chen. David was an accountant with a calm, supportive personality. Different personalities, but shared values: justice, family, community service. The marriage was stable and happy, but they struggled with having children. Margaret's career gained international recognition. In 1988, she became a World Health Organization consultant, developing global poison control protocol. In 1992, she gave guest lectures at the FBI Academy, training federal agents. Her career highlight came in 1995, a high-profile case: tech entrepreneur Richard Morrison's suspicious death. 45 years old, healthy, sudden death, $10 million insurance, wife is beneficiary. Police initially thought it was natural causes. Margaret performed a comprehensive toxicology screen. Initial tests came back negative, but Margaret's intuition told her something was wrong. She tested for exotic compounds for deeper analysis. The breakthrough came: rare South American plant poison, similar to ricin, but much more sophisticated. She checked import records and found the wife's suspicious purchases. The investigation revealed a detailed murder plot. The trial was a media sensation. Margaret's expert testimony was crucial. The defense attempted to undermine the technical analysis, but Margaret's explanation was clear and convincing. The wife received a life sentence. The case brought Margaret national recognition, but also came with personal costs. She received death threats and experienced security concerns. The stress put pressure on the marriage, but David remained supportive. In 1998, Margaret expanded her specialization: elder abuse cases. With increasing reports of suspicious deaths in nursing homes, Margaret was often consulted. The pattern was disturbing: vulnerable elderly, financial motives, sophisticated poisoning methods. In the 2000s, Margaret's consulting work increased. Retirement plans, but demand for her expertise was high. David encouraged a gradual transition: part-time consulting, teaching, mentoring young toxicologists. In 2003, Margaret officially retired from the California State Lab, but continued active consulting. At 51, at the peak of her expertise, she wanted a more balanced life. She and David had travel plans, hobby pursuits, and visions of quiet retirement. In 2010, David's sudden heart attack shattered Margaret's world. At 58, widowed, emotional devastation combined with financial concern. David's life insurance was adequate, but retirement savings were stretched. The grief was overwhelming. Margaret fell into depression and experienced social isolation. Friends and colleagues offered support, but Margaret withdrew. Her sense of purpose was completely lost. Therapy helped gradually. The grief counselor suggested being active and helping others. "Your knowledge can still save lives," the therapist said, maybe in a different way. In 2011, Margaret explored local volunteer opportunities. She saw a part-time cook position posting at Sunset Manor nursing home. Initially hesitant, overqualified, different field, but something about caring for the elderly appealed to her. During the job interview, Margaret partially revealed her background. "I have a scientific background," she said carefully. "I understand nutrition, food safety, health needs." Management was impressed but had concerns about overqualification. "Why cooking?" asked Administrator Robert Hayes. "I want to nurture, to care," Margaret replied. "Food is medicine, comfort. These residents deserve the best." The position was simple: meal preparation, dietary requirements, compliance, kitchen sanitation, occasional resident interaction. Margaret found this role therapeutic. The first months were challenging: physical work, routine different from professional life. But gradually, Margaret found meaning. Brief interactions with residents, providing them with nutritious meals, was satisfying. Sunset Manor was a high-end facility. 150 residents, mostly wealthy retirees, premium care, comprehensive medical services, beautiful grounds. Staff was generally professional, equipment modern. Margaret soon learned the resident personalities. Mrs. Eleanor Henderson, 82, former teacher, sharp mind, kind heart. Mr. Frank Williams, 89, retired engineer, still curious about everything. Mrs. Rose Patterson, 76, former nurse, friendly, chatty. But Margaret began to notice subtle irregularities. Certain residents were designated as having special dietary needs, always the wealthy ones, always under Nurse Patricia Kellerman's care. Patricia was 45 years old with 10 years of experience at Sunset Manor and a professional reputation. Residents' families trusted her. Management respected her. But Margaret noticed something unsettling in Patricia's behavior. Patricia spent extra time with certain residents. She added supplements to their meals. She always said, "doctor's orders." But from Margaret's medical background, most supplements weren't added during meal preparation. In March 2023, Margaret made a critical observation. She was preparing Mrs. Henderson's lunch tray. Patricia came to the kitchen and said, "Mrs. Henderson's special vitamin," sprinkling white powder on the food. Margaret tried to get a closer look. The powder was odorless, fine texture. "What kind of vitamin?" Margaret asked casually. "Calcium supplement," Patricia replied quickly. "Doctor's prescription." But Margaret was suspicious. Calcium supplements were usually tablets, not powder. The texture and color were familiar to something, but she couldn't identify exactly what it was. At home, Margaret conducted extensive research. She accessed old toxicology textbooks, internet resources, and poison identification databases. The substance's characteristics matched multiple compounds, but the most likely candidate was ricin. Ricin was a lethal toxin derived from castor beans. Small amounts were extremely dangerous, slow-acting, causing organ failure. Symptoms were initially flu-like, then progressive deterioration. Death resembled natural causes. The next day, Margaret observed more carefully. After lunch, Mrs. Henderson complained of nausea and fatigue. Nurse Patricia explained it as normal aging symptoms and prescribed additional vitamins. Margaret's alarm bells were ringing. Her pattern recognition training kicked in. Mrs. Henderson was a wealthy widow with a substantial estate. In recent months, her health had been declining, but the correlation with supplements was suspicious. Margaret expanded her discreet investigation. With kitchen access, she reviewed resident records. She cross-referenced death certificates, inheritance documents, and family information. The pattern was terrifying. In the last 18 months, 12 wealthy residents had died. All had taken special dietary supplements. All had left substantial inheritances. Most disturbing, many inheritances had gone to mysterious charity organizations. Margaret dug deeper. She researched the charity organizations. They were shell companies with no legitimate activities. Board member names were suspicious, some connected to Sunset Manor staff. The realization hit her. This was a systematic murder scheme. Wealthy residents were being slowly poisoned, deaths appeared natural, and inheritance money was being stolen. Margaret began documenting evidence. Photos, notes, timeline, financial connections, but she needed physical evidence. She made a risky decision. She would obtain a sample of the vitamin powder from the kitchen. She worked a late shift after Patricia was gone. She transferred a small amount of powder to a plastic bag. At home, Margaret conducted basic field tests. Using her chemistry knowledge with simple reagents, the tests strongly suggested ricin presence, but she needed professional analysis for definitive proof. Margaret faced a moral dilemma. She should report to police, but the evidence was circumstantial. As a 68-year-old cook, her credibility was questionable, but lives were at risk. Over the weekend, Margaret made her decision. She went to the local police station and met with Detective Sarah Johnson. She was initially skeptical. "This is a serious accusation. Are you sure about this?" Margaret gave a comprehensive presentation. Background, observations, evidence, connections. The detective was impressed, but would require investigation. "We need more evidence," Johnson said. "Are you willing to help?" Margaret agreed, but it was dangerous. Undercover cooperation, additional documentation, careful observation. The following weeks were intense. Margaret continued her normal duties but documented every interaction: Patricia's behavior, supplement administration, resident reactions. Margaret discovered additional disturbing patterns. Patricia always worked evening shifts with wealthy residents. Late hours, minimal supervision, rare family visits. The investigation revealed Patricia's financial connections, recent luxury purchases, unexplained income, suspicious bank deposits. Detective Johnson conducted a deeper background check. Patricia Kellerman's previous employment was at multiple nursing homes. Each position coincided with mysterious resident deaths. The pattern of employment changes, relocations, always after suspicious incidents. The detective team expanded. Federal involvement, financial crime investigation, multi-state cooperation. The case was bigger than initially thought. A surveillance operation was launched. Patricia's activities were monitored. Phone communications were intercepted. Evidence revealed the scope of the systematic operation. Patricia wasn't alone. Administrator Robert Hayes was her conspiracy partner. They coordinated document forgery, legal manipulation, and financial fraud. The scheme was sophisticated. Hayes identified potential victims. Patricia conducted the poisoning process, and illegal inheritance transfers were arranged. Perfect crime. Natural deaths, no suspicion, substantial financial gain. The investigation revealed that in the past 3 years, 15 residents had been murdered. The total stolen amount exceeded $8 million. Multiple states, multiple facilities, a systematic elder abuse operation. In September 2023, the arrest operation was executed. Dawn raids, simultaneous arrests, evidence seizure. Patricia at the nursing home, Hayes at home. Several accomplices at different locations were arrested. Media coverage was intense. Sunset Manor murder scheme, angel of death nurse, elder abuse conspiracy headlines. Margaret's role was initially protected, her identity kept confidential. Patricia showed complete shock during the arrest. She repeatedly asked, "How did you find out? Who told you?" Police protected Margaret and didn't reveal the whistleblower's identity. Trial preparation took months. The evidence was overwhelming, but the prosecution had to carefully build the case. Margaret was a key witness, and her testimony was of critical importance. During the trial, Margaret was a key witness. Her toxicology expertise and detailed documentation made the prosecution's case strong. The defense attempted to undermine Margaret's credibility, but her distinguished career spoke for itself. Patricia was sentenced. Life imprisonment without parole. Medical license permanently revoked. Hayes, 25 years in federal prison. $8 million restitution order. But the story doesn't end there. Margaret's actions attracted national attention. Elder abuse organizations honored Margaret. The American Association of Forensic Toxicologists gave her a Lifetime Achievement Award. More importantly, Margaret's case inspired federal legislation, enhanced nursing home oversight, mandatory toxicology, screening for suspicious deaths, stronger penalties for elder abuse. Margaret now works as a consultant for the California Department of Health. She develops nursing home safety protocols and consults on suspicious death investigations. Sunset Manor was completely reformed under new management. Enhanced security, staff background checks, medication protocols. Margaret continues as a part-time consultant. In Margaret's office, there's a photo, her with Mrs. Henderson's family. Mrs. Henderson survived thanks to Margaret's intervention and is now healthy. "You saved my mother's life," her daughter said. Young nursing staff now treat Margaret with deep respect. They know this isn't an ordinary cook. She's a life-saving hero. They're eager to learn from Margaret and benefit from her experience. Margaret's transformation is complete, from invisible cook to recognized expert, from elder protection advocate to forgotten specialist. But the most important thing, innocent lives were saved. Families were protected. The nursing industry is now more vigilant against elder abuse. Margaret's case became a warning. Vulnerable elderly exploitation will not be tolerated. Consequences will be severe. Margaret occasionally gives lectures at nursing schools. "Trust your instincts," she tells students. "Professional expertise never expires. Question everything. Protect those who cannot protect themselves." Sunset Manor residents now show Margaret different respect. For them, she's not just a cook. She's a guardian angel, a life protector. Margaret's meals are now a symbol of safety and care. The elderly toxicologist taught everyone an important lesson. Injustice is not limited by age. The right knowledge at the right time in the right hands can save innocent lives. Have you ever faced such a situation? Have you worried about the care of your loved ones? Share your experiences in the comments. If this video gave you hope too, don't forget to like it. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss stories of real heroes like this. If you enjoyed this story, click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next inspiring tale.